picture this scenario. You're 32 years old, and you just got a check you never thought you'd have. Maybe you inherited it. Maybe you sold something. Maybe you worked your tail off for 6 years and finally saved it. You're holding $100,000. Your friend who makes almost the same money you do, they have $47,000 in their checking account and $8,000 in a savings account that earns 0.01% interest. They're also kind of proud about how much they've saved. Meanwhile, your neighbor, same age, same job, similar paycheck, she's been investing money consistently since she was 26. She has $340,000. Same income, same life, completely different destinies. And here's the thing that keeps you up at night. That $100,000 you're holding right now is potentially a one-way ticket to financial freedom, or it's going to evaporate in a way you never see coming. My name is Alex, and I spend way too much time thinking about why wealthy people don't work harder than poor people. They just let math work for them in ways most people will never understand. If you've ever wondered why the gap between rich and not rich just keeps expanding, hit that subscribe button, because I'm about to show you the actual math of how $100,000 becomes $1 million and why your school never taught you this. Let me paint you a picture of what actually happens when you invest that $100,000 properly. Most people think wealth creation is this glamorous thing like you need to start a business or get lucky in crypto or somehow have insider information. That's not what the math shows. Here's something that might blow your mind. The difference between someone who becomes a millionaire and someone who stays middle class for their entire life often comes down to one simple variable that almost nobody talks about when they start. But here's where it gets really interesting. Let's talk about the actual timeline. If you have $100,000 right now at 32 and you put it into a diversified stock portfolio earning an average of 10% annually, which, historically, the S&P 500 has returned around 10.5% per year since the 1980s. Here's what your money does. Year 1, $110,000. Year 2, $121,000. Year 3, $133,100. This part seems kind of slow, right? You put in $100,000 and after 3 years you've only made $33,000. That's not life-changing. That's barely keeping up with inflation plus a little extra. But now you're starting to see something crucial. Year 5, you're at $161,051. Year 8, you're at $214,358. And this is where most people lose interest and move their money to try something faster. They see their portfolio at $214,000 after 8 years and think, there's got to be a faster way. And there absolutely isn't, so they bail. They pull the money out. Maybe they pay capital gains taxes, maybe they try to day trade, maybe they just stuff it back into their savings account. They've just sabotaged their future, and they don't even know it yet. Now you might be thinking, okay, Alex, but it's going to take forever to get to $1 million. Let's add it up. Year 12, you've crossed $310,585. Year 15, you're at $417,724. Year 18, you're at $517. And then something magical happens. Year 20, you're at $672,749. Year 23, you're at $904,943. And year 24, less than 2 years after you crossed $672,000, you've hit $995,800. You're basically at $1 million. So from $100,000 to $1 million takes approximately 24 to 25 years if you just let it sit and compound without adding a single additional dollar, not moving it, not trying to beat the market, just boring, predictable, mathematical growth. Here's what nobody tells you. That's actually fast. Our grandparents' generation? They could have taken their $100,000 in $1980, which adjusted for inflation would be more like $350,000 in today's money, and they'd be set for life by their mid-50s. Today, someone in their 30s can take $100,000 and reach millionaire status by their mid-50s through literally just being patient. The math hasn't changed. What's changed is that people stopped believing in it. And this is where things get even more interesting. Most people with $100,000 will do something catastrophically stupid with it. A 2023 study on high net worth individual behavior found that roughly 68% of people who come into sudden money of $100,000 or more spend or lose at least half of it within 5 years. They don't invest it, they spend it. A new car here, a nicer house there, some lifestyle inflation, some bad advice from a friend. 5 years later, they're back to having $47,000 sitting in their checking account feeling broke again. But let's imagine you don't do that. Let's imagine you put that $100,000 to work and you also start adding to it. This is where the story gets actually insane. If you invested that initial $100,000 and then added just $400 per month, that's roughly $133 per week, here's what happens. You're not changing your lifestyle dramatically. You're not being a hero. You're just taking what's left over after you've paid your bills and your taxes and your normal life. That $400 a month for 25 years is $120,000 that you're putting in yourself, but the market is compounding that whole time. Your initial $100,000 turns into around $1 million, as we talked about, but now you're also getting compound growth on all those monthly contributions. Your total contributions are $220,000, the original $100,000, in monthly deposits. But your portfolio? At that same 10% average return, you're looking at somewhere around $1,900,000. You put in $220,000 with your own money. Your portfolio is now worth $1,900,000. That means $1,680,000 of your wealth came from compound growth, not from your paycheck. You're now what you could call genuinely wealthy. Your money is making more money than you do. Now here's the part that should genuinely upset you. If your friend, the one with $55,000 in cash, sitting around earning nothing, if she had done the same thing 24 years ago when you're 32, she would be a millionaire right now. But instead, she played it safe. She didn't want to risk the market. She was scared. She kept her money in savings accounts and money market funds earning 0.01% to 1.5% annually. She put in the same total contribution $220,000. Guess what she has? Maybe $260,000 if she's lucky. She put in $220,000 and got back $260,000. Meanwhile, you turned $220,000 into $1,900,000. But here's where the story gets more complicated, because timing matters in a way that people completely underestimate. Let me describe someone to you. His name is hypothetically James. He's 28 years old. He has $80,000 saved up. He feels like he's behind. Everyone on Instagram seems richer. He has a good job, but he's wondering if he should invest or if he should wait for the market to crash, or if he should save more first. He keeps watching YouTube videos about the next recession. His buddy told him the market's about to come down 40%. James is paralyzed. He's waiting for the right time to invest his $80,000. Sound familiar? Here's something that might blow your mind. If James had invested that $80,000 in 1997 right before the dot-com bubble, he would have watched his money get cut in half. It would have been absolutely terrifying. But if he'd just left it there instead of panic selling, by 2024, he'd have $3.8 million, literally 4 times what I just described. Not because he was smart about when he invested, but because he couldn't bring himself to sell the panic. Ironically, his fear of the crash is what would have made him wealthy. Meanwhile, someone who waited for the crash, someone who was disciplined and smart and thought they were making the right move, they'd probably have invested around 2009 at the market bottom. Great timing, right? They'd have less than half the wealth James has right now because they invested later, even though they timed it perfectly. This is the mathematical system that nobody teaches in school. The earlier you're in the game, the more you benefit from every percentage point of return. Miss 5 years? That's not a 50% reduction in your returns. It's more like a 30 to 40% reduction because you missed the compounding of those years, multiplying everything that came after. Now, let's talk about what happens if you're a late starter. You're 42. You just got your act together. You finally have $100,000 saved up. You feel behind. You are behind compared to where you could have been. But here's where it gets interesting. If you still invest that $100,000 at 10% annual returns, by the time you're 67, you'll have something around $872,000. Not quite a millionaire, but you're close. And if you added that same $400 per month, you'd be looking at around $1.65 million by the time you retire. You started 14 years later than the 32-year-old version of you, but you're still building substantial wealth. Not as much, but substantial. The math doesn't reward starting late, but it also doesn't completely punish you for it. And this is where the system reveal happens. This is the part they definitely don't want you to understand. Every financial advisor, every financial media outlet, every wealth management firm has a vested interest in keeping you confused about this. Why? Because if everyone understood that boring, consistent, long-term investing in a diversified portfolio was the actual path to wealth, people would stop paying them money to find shortcuts. There are entire industries' financial advisors taking 1% of your assets annually, expensive active management funds, charging you 2 to 3% in fees, trading education platforms, crypto bros promising 100 times returns. All of them exist because most people haven't internalized the boring truth. The boring truth is mathematically violent in its simplicity. Start early. Invest consistently. Don't panic sell. Don't try to beat the market. Don't pay people high fees. Let compound interest work for 25 to 30 years. Become a millionaire. That's it. That's the entire system. It's so boring that people convince themselves it can't possibly be the real answer. There must be something more sophisticated. Right. Some edge? Some advanced strategy? Nope, there isn't. Here's what really gets me. Our grandparents understood this intuitively. They weren't reading fancy financial blogs. They didn't have Roth IRAs. They just understood that if you saved your money and put it into something that grew over time, you'd eventually be okay. A 1970s worker could put money into their company pension, and by the time they retired, they had a stable income. They weren't trying to 10 times their portfolio. They were letting steady growth compound. And guess what? They all became millionaires by today's standards, not because they made more money than you do, but because they started earlier, they had less financial noise, and they just let it work. So here's where you're actually supposed to be right now if you want to be on track to have generational wealth. If you're 25 and you have $5,000, start putting that $400 a month in and don't touch it. By the time you're 50, you'll have over $2.4 million and you'll have only contributed $150,000 of your own money. If you're 32 with $100,000, you know exactly what to do now. If you're 42 with $100,000, you're going to be fine, not as good as 32-year-old you, but fine. If you're 52 with $100,000, you can still get to $700,000 by 65. The point is, there is no too late moment. There's only a later than you could have done moment, and that's different. So there you have it. The math that gets you from $100,000 to $1 million isn't about being brilliant. It's not about finding hidden investments or having secret information. It's about understanding one simple principle: time plus compound interest plus consistency equals wealth. Your neighbor who seems financially untouchable, she doesn't work harder than you. She probably doesn't earn more than you. She just started earlier, or she understood this earlier, or she trusted the math when it seemed like nothing was happening. The next time you have $100,000, whether you earn it, inherit it, or save it from your salary, remember that you're not just holding $100,000. You're holding a potential pathway to generational wealth. The question is whether you're going to let them keep selling you on shortcuts, or whether you're going to do the boring thing and become a millionaire anyway.